Hey there, my name is Megan and welcome to my channel, or welcome back. And for my American friends, happy Thanksgiving. Today I'm going to be doing the Thanksgiving book tag. Believe it or not, I've actually never done this book tag before, and I'm like, that is perfect because Thursday is Thanksgiving and I post on Thursdays, so I thought it would be a lot of fun to do. I will be sure to put the book blog where I found this tag down in the description box below so you can check it out. But before we go ahead and get on into the prompts, if you're not already subscribed to my channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button, as well as the little bell icon so you can be notified every time I post new content. I post new videos every Monday, Thursday, and Saturday. Also, don't forget to check down the description box below for links to my Patreon, where you can be entered into winning book giveaways from me. Prompt number 1 is friends and family. Name a book that has characters that feel like family. And I'm actually twisting this prompt a little bit. I am going with a relationship, like a really good family relationship. And I'm actually going to go with An Alchemy, A Mask and Mirrors by Curtis Craddock. This is an adult fantasy with steampunk elements. And I do have a full why you should read this trilogy video, which I'll link up in the cards because it is so underrated. But the reason I chose this book is we have two main characters in this book. We have Isabelle, and then we have Jean-Claude. And he is a musketeer. He's like a retired musketeer. And he has protected Isabelle her whole life. He is not her biological father, but he treats her like she's his daughter. And it is just so freaking adorable, these two, and just how much they love each other. And it's all platonic, how much they do for each other, how much they look out for each other and trust each other, especially in a world where Isabelle did not have that. Her own father was very exploitive of her and cruel to her because she has a deformity. So I just loved that Jean-Claude was able to step in and be that father figure for her, even though like she was not actually his child. So great father-daughter type relationship in this series, as well as like a ton of other relationships. So highly recommend. Prompt 2 is Fallen Leaves, a book that fell flat and did not meet your expectations. For this, I'm going to go with Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. So I ended up picking this up from my library just because of all the freaking hype that is around this book. And I got 100 pages in and I DNF'd it. I tried listening to the audiobook thinking that maybe I just wasn't getting into it physically reading it, and I did not like the audiobook narrator either. But the reason that I did not like this book was that it was trying too hard to be modern and edgy, and in my opinion it just did not fit in with like the setting of the story. And I just felt like the main characters were very immature for what they were trying to be. Like, these are adults and they're literally risking their lives, and they came off as so immature. And I just felt like I was reading a badly written CW show and I just couldn't get into it. In addition, like, it was just overly sexualized for no reason, and I didn't even get to any parts of the story that were like smutty or anything like that. But like, the main character's sister was just talking about like having sex with anybody at any time, and I'm like, girl, like, no. Like, there's way more to a story than that, and there's just way more that you could be writing about in your book. And I get that it's supposed to be like a smutty romance book, and that's kind of like its niche, but I don't know, it just didn't sit well with me and I didn't like it, so it was definitely a DNF. Prompt 3 is Thanksgiving Dinner, a book that you will read every year. And I don't have a book that I read every single year. However, recently in one of my videos, I can't remember which one, I said that I was itching to reread the Mistborn trilogy by Brandon Sanderson. I don't know why. It's just been several years since I've read it. I read it even before I started doing booktube videos. It's been that long. And I want to be back in that world, and I want to be back in on Scadrial and learning about all of his Cosmere elements that he originally wrote about, and just being with Vin and Kelsier again. I just want to be in that world and with those characters. So I don't know when I'm going to get to it, but I would love to read all the books and do reviews for them for you guys, even though I know it is a beloved series and there's a ton of videos out there with reviews. Maybe you guys would want to hear my take on it. I don't know. Prompt number 4 is a book with a bird in it, and I am going to twist this a little bit as well. I'm going to go with The Bone Ships by R.J. Barker, and I do have a full review for this as well, so I'll link it up in the cards for you guys. But in this series, this is a fantasy series, but at least in book 1, there wasn't a ton of magic in it. However, there is this one being that is bird-like, but also human-like. And the whole reason that this being exists, like it looks like a bird, but it has like human legs. The whole reason that this being exists is that they work on ships and they are able to control the wind. And a lot of people, because of how abnormal they look and act, really, really treat them badly. But the main character actually befriends this bird being on his ship. So it's a bird human type mix that is one of the only fantastical elements in this story. And I actually found it incredibly fascinating. Prompt 5 is Ham, a book that made your eyes glaze over. And y'all, don't come hating me for this one, but I'm gonna have to go with Dune by Frank Herbert. Y'all, I have read this book twice. And I find the writing so boring. I find it so dry. And I love the audiobook narrator of this book, Simon Vance, I think is his name. He is one of my favorite audiobook narrators. He narrated the Lightbringer series by Brent Weeks. He's narrating The Vampire Lestat, which I'm currently reading. I love him. He's great. And even with him as a narrator, like this, I just found myself zoning out anytime I read this book or attempted to listen to it. Yes, I got through it 2 times, but I have no desire to ever, ever, ever pick up this book again just because I find it incredibly dry. Prompt 6 is Dinner Rolls, a book that melted your heart. I'm going to have to go with Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. I tend to read a lot of sci-fi and fantasy, which can include like cute, warm elements in them, but most of the time that's not the focus. Whereas in this book, we are literally following a group of sisters in a family that is so supportive and loving of one another as they are going through the hard times of the Civil War and the end of the Civil War, and just how they support each other through hardships and maintain like positivity and love and affection towards each other through all these hard times. And yes, it's very like slice of life type stuff, and I found myself engrossed in it. It's one of my favorite stories of all time. Prompt 7 is Mashed Potatoes, a book with a white cover. I'm going to go with A Kindness of Magicians by Kate Howard or Cat Howard. This is definitely like the whitest cover I could find with some gray elements, but this is a standalone adult fantasy that I haven't read yet. It's been on my TBR for like 2 years, and it has to do with like 2 elite magical families that end up having to compete against one another for some sort of control of something. I'm not really sure, but I've heard good things about it. And this was gifted to me by a subscriber, so I'm super grateful for that. It's been described as like the dueling club that was in Harry Potter, but for adults, which I'm totally here for. And Prompt 8 is a book that you're not sure why you love, but you do. And I'm gonna have to go with Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. Like, I know that this is not a super, super joyful novel. Reading it is not to make you feel happy, but every time I read this book, I am just surprised at how many ideas and themes Ray Bradbury addresses in this book that are still applicable to our everyday world. And one of the main themes that he addresses in his book is the pursuit of knowledge. And what we see in this world is that people are allowing themselves to be consumed by media, and they are just losing the ability to think critically and question the information that's being sent to them and that they're ingesting. And I feel like this was going on during his time, but it's definitely going on in our time. You know, we see young people and millennials and Gen Z and, the kids that are just addicted to media and social media and cell phones and just never stopping to think about the content that they're consuming and, the accuracy of that information. So I just love that Ray Bradbury was addressing this. And I feel like he is encouraging the reader to step back, learn all you can, become a lifelong learner, become a critical thinker. That way, when you are given this information, you're able to discern whether, it's good information or not good information, if that makes sense. So that's one of the reasons that I like this book, is just because of its relevancy, and it will continue to be one of my favorites. Okay, you guys, that is it for the Thanksgiving book tag. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them, or if you want to answer some of these prompts in the comments below. And I will see you all in another video soon, and have an amazing, happy Thanksgiving with friends and family. Goodbye.